Superhero movies and media have saturated the landscape. Marvel and DC have taken over with formulas that have become stale and repetitive. And I honestly don't care about any of these factors. I just love superheroes. I grew up on them, with them. Their journeys, arcs, and morals taught me so much, and I'm always looking to watch the next release. As I got older though, I needed to see a more mature and gory representation of these heroes. I feel like Logan gave us that, and showed us how the level of maturity can enhance the theme, story, and overall message that the movie is trying to narrate to its audience. Because the journey is so grueling, and the stakes are so high with this level of maturity, the conclusion holds so much more weight because we've seen our characters go through insane trials and tribulations. And here came a show out of almost nowhere that did everything I wanted it to do. It gave us a gory and mature take on superheroes, putting our protagonist Mark through a mentally and physically taxing journey, with the main theme of exploring humanity and the fragility of it. How does Mark beat an all-powerful, unstoppable force that happens to be his father, his idol, and the one character Mark has looked up to his entire life? How does Mark, a character that gets beat up time after time and fails time after time, become the superhero? This show explores what it means to be invincible. It doesn't have to do with him winning or losing a fight. In fact, Mark loses almost every major encounter in the show. It's more so his willingness to keep going, his resolve that is invincible. The dynamic between Nolan and Mark keep the story alive. The second that Mark tells his father that he has powers, a flip switches in Nolan's mind, as the comfortable human life he's lived officially ends in this moment. Both characters train, and the first character beat for Mark is when his dad lands a staggering punch on his chest, which sort of traumatizes him for the remainder of the show. Mark couldn't withstand the force of the punch. He's instantly subdued. He couldn't prove to his father that he was strong enough in this moment, and that drives him to hunt down criminals and find a way to prove his worth. The first episode has Mark asking Nolan to punch him again, promising that he can take it. He doesn't understand his responsibility as a hero yet. At this point, Mark is just doing everything to gain the approval of his father, to show Nolan that he has what it takes to be a superhero, that he has what it takes to be like Omni-man.
Hit me. I wasn't ready before. Now I am. I can take it. I know you think I can't do this. Hit me and let me prove you wrong. Please, Dad. I want to do what you do. I want to be just like you.
You will be, son. You will.
His desperation in wanting to please his father and wanting to be like him is what makes the finale even more heart-crushing. The second most important character in this story is his mom, Debbie, who balances out all the superhero themes of responsibility with the themes of humanity, the importance of it, and the fragility of it. Debbie represents the human side in Mark and grounds him as he soars through the clouds with Nolan. Initially, Mark thinks that humanity is nothing special. He outright says this to his mom.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm worried about. I'm nothing like Dad. I'm more like you. I'm nothing special.
Debbie teaches Mark the strength in individuality.
How can I possibly live up to all that?
You don't have to be the greatest Omni-man ever. You just have to be the greatest you.
And what if the greatest me isn't enough?
Mark, you stupid boy. How could the greatest you not be enough?
Thank you.
It's amazing writing because as he undervalues humanity, it is exactly what saves him and the planet by the end of the season. And of course, this happens. But I'm sure it's been covered in abundance across YouTube, the big Omni-man twist. And I'm really here to dig deeper into Mark as a character and his journey in understanding what it means to be a hero. Episode 2 is genius and a great way to set the main difference between Mark and Nolan. In this episode, we see Mark having to step up and take his father's place in protecting the world from an invasion. Here he does everything he can despite his uncertainty and fear to save the lives of the innocent. We feel the music deafen as Mark gets hit with a panic attack as he stands covered with the blood of those he should be saving. He tries his best to save one life, but because of how new he is to this, the lady is further injured. We spend some time seeing Mark's mental state for not being able to be like his father, for not being able to save more lives. And that's what's great about this mature medium. We get to see explicit deaths and how it affects the characters. Mark says it best himself.
It wasn't what I expected. I figured I'd punch some aliens and they'd go home.
Not how it looks on TV.
Oh shit.
The show makes it a necessity for the audience to see how Mark feels about this one life he saved, his concern for it. It teaches him the importance of his role, the importance of his power, and the value of life. And although the lady he saved succumbs to her injuries, Mark is continually affected by it, which is contrasted by Nolan's reaction.
No, they said she'd recover.
It's part of the job. Come on, let's go home. I'm dying for some real food.
And this episode is so important in understanding the finale. Nolan didn't have this experience. He narrates the worldview he was born into, where only the strongest survive, and life isn't considered as something to be protected. It's something that has to be earned. And because of this, Nolan isn't able to understand why Mark won't go along with his responsibility to Viltrum. Because Mark has had these human experiences, he is able to stand up for himself and the world in that final episode. The show expertly writes Nolan as a character who illustrates Viltrum to be a utopia that helps with ending wars, bringing peace, developing races.
We've ended wars all over the universe, brought peace to thousands of galaxies, lifted alien races out of the mud and into the future. It's why I'm here on Earth.
Viltrum accomplishes this by wiping out the weak, something that Mark would never be okay with, which Nolan finds confusing, as to him, the end does justify the means. Characters like Amber, Adam Eve, William also play a part in developing Mark's humanity, as they all have their own story arcs aside the main superhero storyline. The show gives us plots like Amber and Mark's complicated relationship, as Mark tries to balance his hero duties and his relationship with Amber, and Adam Eve and Mark's relatability, in balancing hero work and a normal life. These experiences further deepen Mark's character to be more human, as he has a strong supporting group of friends that teach him what being a real hero means. The supporting cast, including the villains like Titan, also deepen his connection with humanity, separating him again from his father's ideologies, specifically where Titan shows him that not every situation is as black and white as criminals and heroes.
I called you here because I need your help.
Why would I help you? You're a criminal.
You don't even know what that word means.
Why don't you give Fight Force a call?
Sure, man, just fly away. Forget about everyone else down here. Let me show you what you don't see from up there.
It's cool to see how Mark believes that helping Titan is beneath him, as his father's influence sort of catches up to him. But again, the humanity of his mother propels him into helping Titan.
Do you think I should help this Titan guy out?
You'd be making a huge mistake. Even if that was true, you're a Viltrumite. Okay? This is beneath you.
Mom?
Helping someone is never beneath you.
And another great scene that propels this theme of responsibility and the value of human life is where we have Mark and the Guardians of the Globe battle a group of villains that tear them apart, pushing the gore to its limit. We see Black Samson get torn apart, Monster Girl getting her head crushed, and Invincible getting bashed open. I love this sequence because it teaches every character how vulnerable they all are, and they learn through their failures. They learn that their job isn't easy. In this current cinematic climate where superheroes are invulnerable in their movies, we have Invincible that pushes each character to their limits, with consequences that truly shape them, keeping the stakes high throughout. And so we finally get to one of the most emotional and insane finales I've ever seen. A true battle of ideologies, where we see Mark and Nolan, father and son, come head to head with all that they've learned and experienced. In a final culmination of the themes explored in the show, Nolan explains the Viltrumite principles, how their society is built to weed out the weak and keep only the strong in order to build a perfect world. This, paired with the Viltrumite lifespan, turns Nolan into someone who didn't ever value life. It came easy to him. He didn't have the same journey as Mark, who got to see the value of life firsthand and go through that journey of guilt and understanding responsibility, getting knocked down constantly only to get back up to do what was right. Nolan was born into a world that believed that the end justified the means, but Mark's journey shaped him into someone that got to value all those small moments, which was further strengthened by the people in his life that shaped his understanding of humanity. The battle truly begins when Nolan exhibits his inhumanity by saying,
I do love your mother, but she's more like a pet to me.
A pet?
Nolan's true nature is fully brought to display as he throws Mark around. He constantly tries to show him how fragile humanity is, how weak.
Look what they need to mimic a fraction of our power.
He demonstrates his Viltrumite power to its full scale by punching Mark and leveling a whole city, and as Mark attempts to stop a building from falling and save a mother and daughter, but fails. Nolan explains that they were never important, never of any significance to the grand scheme of things.
And what were they doing with those fragile little lives anyway? You know in your heart I'm right.
Right? About how pathetic and pointless humanity is? Is Mom's life worthless?
In the grand scheme of things, yes.
And of course I had to show off this scene, Nolan holding Mark against the train, with gore filling the screen as he forces Mark to see the devastation of thousands of bodies being crushed against the power and strength of the Viltrumites, exhibiting how strong they are compared to the human species, how worthless human lives are. Nolan's god complex shines bright in this scene.
These people are meaningless. They're cavemen without us.
The question then becomes, did humanity ever reach Nolan? Was he ever affected by it? Because he did build a life with Mark and Debbie, and Mark points out how Nolan went out of his way to save lives, but Nolan detests, as he says,
My time here has been a speck in the span of my life. You don't know me.
Nolan punches Mark again and again, breaking him physically and mentally, as he says,
You want to die for this planet? Fine! What's 17 more years? I can always start again. Make another kid.
Mark is no match for him. Nolan wins. He could have destroyed the entire planet and led Earth into the Viltrum Empire, but we get a quick and simple flashback that illustrates exactly what humanity is, what it means, what it looks like. Nolan's weakness, his hamartia, was letting humanity get to him. It's cool to see what the story is trying to show us, that despite Nolan living for thousands of years, a mere 20 years was able to change his mind in such an intense moment. The flashback shows Nolan to initially be closed off to seeing his son play baseball. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get the point and the meaning of being a father. He's so pressured by his responsibility to Viltrum that he isn't able to think about the meaningless things like enjoying this fleeting moment.
This is a waste of everyone's time. There's so much more I could be doing right now.
But Debbie is able to communicate the beauty in the moment that they're standing in.
Look at Mark.
Strike one.
We made him. When he feels joy, we feel joy.
Strike two.
As we get older, it's harder to feel that. But our children remind us of the joys in life. It brings us back, shows us what life is all about. This is humanity.
Watching Mark, their son, play with joy, sharing that parental love, expressing it, she reminds Nolan of the importance of holding on to that, regardless of how old they get. The weight of Viltrumite responsibilities, burdens, expectations, especially on Nolan, had turned him into someone who just didn't value life. But Debbie is able to sway him in this moment, and Nolan finally sees the magic in just being a parent and human, just being there in the moment. Debbie's explanation saves the world.
Did you see? Oh, that was amazing!
Yeah, I saw.
As Nolan picks up Mark, the scene transitions to the horror that has become their lives. Nolan isn't able to go through with it. He's angry in this moment, angry at Debbie, Mark, but mostly himself for letting humanity get to him.
Why did you make me do this? You're fighting so you can watch everyone around you die. Think, Mark. You'll outlast every fragile, insignificant being on this planet.
He expresses the irrationality in the existence of the human species due to their short lifespan. What would be left after thousands of years? Why should Mark fight for people that won't even be there for half his lifetime? What would he have left?
What will you have after 500 years?
And Mark says the one statement that establishes the main differences between Nolan and Mark as people.
You, Dad. I still have you. Dad?
Mark's humanity would have let him fight for everyone he loves and be content with his father's presence. So Mark saying that he'd have his dad after everything had crumbled to dust shows Nolan that sometimes the journey matters. The people you meet and save matter. When you let the weight of the destination get to you, you aren't able to see clearly in what matters in the present. And so Nolan loses only due to the strength of humanity and flies off. The show ends off beautifully, illustrating every character being affected by such a large event, and Mark is forever changed as he sees his entire journey in becoming a hero. His uncertainty, desperation, fear, all of which culminated to losing his father. His journey for now has come to an end. A strong story with stakes, gore, and an effective supporting cast, and themes that dig into what it means to be human makes this show one of my all-time favorites. A piece of media that introduces an all-powerful, unbeatable antagonist and uses the contrast between Mark and Nolan's experiences to exploit Omni-man's hamartia. I truly believe that every franchise can learn from